Hopefully everyone is doing well. All right, so I'm going to have a call to order. We can begin. Does everyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right, perfect. All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the August 15th, 2023 meeting of the North Carolina Driver Education Advisory Committee. This committee advises and recommends to the State Board of Education how to implement the North Carolina Driver Education Strategic Plan and other issues related to driver education and traffic safety. Today, I will be leading the meeting because Dr. Leonard is out of town today. I'm Chad Alharone, the Vice Chairman of the North Carolina Driver Education Advisory Committee, and I call this meeting to order. Welcome committee members, advisors, staff, on-site visitors, and online listeners to the quarterly meeting of the North Carolina Driver Education Advisory Committee. If at any time during this meeting you have a comment, please speak into the microphone so it can be recorded. If you are in the audience and have questions, please wait to be recognized before speaking. I know Mr. Logan is going to help me out if there's anything in the chat or whatnot that I do not notice. At this time, we would like to welcome our new committee members. When your name is announced, please introduce yourself and share a few words. Bevan Curley, University of North Carolina Highway Research Center. Is Bevan there?
She's not on.
Okay, we can come back to Bevan. Lieutenant Kenley Russell, law enforcement.
Morning.
Morning.
All right, how are you? Any a few words, any introduction?
Just like I say, this is new for me, so I'm just here to listen and kind of learn what you guys do and kind of get my feet wet on this. So I didn't have any when Captain Brown was involved in this. I wasn't up here long enough to really get involved or sit in on any of the meetings. So look forward to working with everyone.
Listen, you got to get your feet wet sometimes. So welcome aboard. All right, Sherry Vernelson. If I've messed that up, I apologize. DPI, Exceptional Children.
No worries. Good morning. This is Sherry Vernelson, and I am a section chief in the Office of Exceptional Children. I support the sensory support and assistive technology section, which is over the low incidence disability areas of deaf and hard of hearing, vision impairment, deaf, blind, birth to 21, actually. Thanks.
It is great to have you on board. We actually just had a student finish driver's ed and had some visual impairments. All right, our agenda and materials are available online through DPI's website, www.dpi.nc.gov, on the driver education section page. The meeting is also auto streamed through a link located at the bottom of the Driver Education Advisory Committee page. Please be advised the meeting is recorded. I will now read the ethics statement that is required of us. Committee members are reminded that it is our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of this committee. Does any member of the committee know of any conflict of interest or any appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us at this meeting? If so, please state them for the record. I don't hear anything, which is a good thing. If during the course of the meeting you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring the matter to the attention of the chair. It will then be your duty to abstain from participating in discussion on the matter and from voting on the matter. The purpose of the North Carolina Driver Education Advisory Committee shall be to advise and make recommendations to the State Board of Education through the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction on the implementation of North Carolina Driver Education Strategic Plan and other issues related to driver education and traffic safety. Composed of experienced and diverse perspectives, the Driver Education Advisory Committee provides research-based information and recommendations to the State Board of Education to implement and maintain the Driver Education Strategic Plan. The advisory committee advocates for certified professional teachers, high quality instruction, and up-to-date curricula to prepare each student to be an informed and responsible driver. Okay, I'm now going to do it's roll call and agenda. Committee members, you have an opportunity to review, you have had an opportunity to review the proposed agenda for today's meeting and the minutes from the last meeting. I ask if there are any requests for changes to the agenda or minutes. Please answer yes during the roll call if you agree to both approve the minutes and accept today's agenda. The only response needed is yes, unless you only agree to one or the other. If so, the response is appropriate minutes or agenda. I ask Cindy Taylor to call roll to capture the vote.
Thank you, Chad. Dr. Cheryl Leonard. Eddie Jordan.
Yes, approved minutes.
Craig Uzel. Dr. Darian Jones. Evan Harrison.
Yes.
Sherry Vernelson.
Yes.
Paul DeLuey. Daniel Carter.
Yes.
Tanya Faulkner.
Yes.
Devin Tanner. Haigan Kapikian. Bobby Dixon.
Yes, I approve.
Lieutenant Kinley Russell.
Yes.
Chad Aharon.
Yes.
Asim McGill.
Yes.
Bevan Curley. Kella Hatcher. And Owen Dara. Chad, we do not have a quorum at this time.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so now I will pass on have the honor to pass everything to Carl Logan, who will present the NC DPI update.
Thank you, Chad, and good morning to everyone. Sometimes we have to improvise and move forward, right? So we'll do our best this morning with both Chad and Dr. Leonard out of the room, but we will move forward and to keep you informed, to keep moving toward our goal of standardization and implementation of the driver education strategic plan. So our goal here this morning is to provide our local leaders with information to assist them in providing the program locally. And obviously to provide this body with info to assist in carrying out your duties as committee members. But first, what I would like to do here is recognize the Senior Director of the District Operations Division, which houses driver education and a number of other sections. Dr. Lynn Harvey.
Thank you, Carl, and welcome everyone virtually and in person to DPI. We always appreciate the opportunity to come together quarterly to share ideas, thoughts, visions, challenges, opportunities related to the statewide driver education program. And on behalf of our State Board of Education and our state superintendent, we want to again express our gratitude for the leadership that you provide, both on this committee and to your local endeavors and to your stakeholder activities. We can't do this work alone, and your involvement, your input, your strategy, your ideas and innovations mean a lot to help us move our strategic plan forward, and most importantly, to positively impact the lives of students we serve. And on that note, I leaned over to Carl a few minutes ago and said, I'd really like a moment of privilege because I want to honor a former driver education teacher who had an incredibly positive impact on my life. I learned just a few weeks ago of the passing of Don Hinton, who was a coach and teacher at Millbrook High School. I had the great privilege of learning many things from Coach Hinton, one of which was to drive safely. I can visualize so many times in the driver's seat with his very gentle coaching, reassurance. He was a kind and patient man, and he obviously knew and adored his students and had the gift of making each one of them feel as if they were his most special. And as I reflected on his life and realized the number of students he shepherded through that process of learning to drive, clearly a life skill that we all need to perform, to appreciate the impact of and the magnitude of, and the privilege that we have to be able to transport ourselves from place to place. But to look back at the person he was and to bring to this group today the recognition that of all the teachers I had in school, his was among the first that comes to my mind when I think about my positive life experiences. So I want to take this moment certainly to honor him and his legacy, because he was a kind, gentle, extraordinarily patient man and teacher. And to acknowledge that in each of you as well, all that you bring to the lives of children you serve, it makes such a difference. They will always remember that driver education experience. Now, there are some parts that I would like to, for my own level of embarrassment, close the window on. But fortunately, not only was Coach Hinton patient and kind, he was also forgiving. And he taught me to laugh at my own mistakes, a valuable life lesson. So again, to pay homage to him today and what an extraordinary man he was, and what extraordinary teachers, leaders, coaches, and mentors you and your respective teams are. So I say thank you for all that you mean to the students, just as Coach Hinton meant to me. Again, thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for what you bring together on this committee today. I look forward to being a part of telling the driver education story as we collectively move forward to implement the plan and to continue to provide the best we're able to provide for our students within an environment that doesn't always understand, maybe doesn't always realize the critical importance of driver ed to those student life skills. Our goal is to help them better understand and appreciate it. Whatever stage of their lives, this can make a difference in the quality of their lives going forward. Again, welcome to DPI. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Dr. Harvey. I'm sure all of us has our own driver education stories and how impactful the driver ed teacher was on us. This is, unfortunately, it's one of those areas that's often overlooked and taken for granted, but how each one of us may not remember your English teacher in the 3rd grade, but you remember your driver ed teacher in the 9th grade and 10th grade. So, but anyway, so thank you for those kind words, and thank you for your support with the program, continual support. So as we continue moving forward here, just a quick update regarding legislatively. Remember last spring, there was some adjustments to the graduate license law, and you'll see on your screen there that in effect now is a 6-month allowance for permits. This will be extended until December the 31st of this year. After that, January 1st, begins a 9-month requirement that students must keep their learner's permits before moving on to level 2. And then also this past the 1st of August, there was a new provision in the law that allows a non-family member to ride in the car with a level 2 student while going to and from school. So those are in effect now. The other one moves into effect on January 1st. So I say that on the benefit of our local leaders and local coordinators for driver education. Next page, Cindy. As far as annual requirements, and this is something that we want to try to give you all an idea or understanding of what DPI is, what kind of requirements that we have here as far as the program is concerned. As far as statute is concerned, 115C-215 and 216, there are 5 requirements for driver education. There is actually no proficiency. We have the rights and privileges of the handicap. You have 6 hours of drugs and alcohol related training, 1 hour of motorcycle awareness, safe police stops, education, and then 6 hours of driving. as I said, there's no proficiency in any one of these areas. There's no final test. There is no minimum standards for operating a vehicle. The question is that should we have the safe police stops education, should it be in a traditional classroom or should it be allowed to be locally? I can tell you that I know that our law enforcement people would say that they would love for the opportunity to interact with the students in the classroom in a traditional environment to have that done. So that's something that we're going to need to discuss and see, because we want to be as effective as we possibly can. Additionally, with the requirements is that we are required to collect certain types of data, which in just a moment Cindy Taylor will bring to you, and also the DMV pass rate at the license office, which we do not have today. However, we will discuss with DMV on getting that. There is also some discussion on, well, I won't bring that up yet. Okay. And also being staffed to this body here, the Driver Ed Advisory Committee. So with that, Ms. Taylor, I can turn it over to you and you can go through our data collections for this past year.
Thank you, Mr. Logan. The graph displayed reflects the number of students served in our driver education program during the 2022-2023 school year, broken down by school type. We are happy to announce all 115 school districts have reported their quarterly data. Last year, 100,398 students participated in the program, which is a 9.4% increase from the prior school year. We've also included data to show how many exceptional children participated in the program on the right side. We realize that well-trained teachers are the key to educating our students. Our team also collects teacher data on a quarterly basis as shown here. The teachers are broken down by in-house and contracted programs totaling 1,245, which is a slight increase from the previous school year. Our efforts are to support the districts with sustaining an adequate number of teachers to avoid backlogs such as the ones produced during COVID. Our DPI team has a learning program manager, Amelia, who you'll hear from in just a few minutes to provide an overview of that support system. Recently, our team announced the soft launch of the Driver Education Administrative and Operation Manual, which includes useful information pertaining to many aspects of the program. All driver education coordinators and contractors were granted access to the manual recently, which is currently housed on a Google Share Drive. The goal is to provide our districts with a sustainable location for administration, operations, policy, and recommendations to move us forward towards standardization. Once we achieve this, we will then be in a better place to create performance and accountability measures. Also, this should decrease waiting times for local driver education coordinators to obtain administrative support. The manual is scheduled to be posted on the DPI website next month.
So thank you, Ms. Taylor. Are there any questions regarding the data that we collect? I know that the districts have been working very diligently to address the backlogs in their area, and I would say that the backlogs, it's not a widespread issue anymore. Cindy, I know that you're in the data collection more than I am. Would you say that, I don't know if you covered it in there, was there a percentage on the number of districts who were less than 70%?
I do not, but I can get that for you.
Okay. All right. So moving forward, the next update is your annual discussion or just a reminder of the requirements of your position on this advisory committee. The advisory committee has, I believe it's 12. Honestly, I don't remember. I think it's 12 positions, 12 seats that we have here represented, and that you have a handout. Of course, the ones who are here in the room with us, the boardroom. Cindy, you can get those to the ones who are attending online. Okay, but it has a list of the requirements, responsibilities, of you as an advisory committee member. Very quickly, go through that, the establishment of rules, and I'm glad that's at the top of the list because that's what we're working on now, is that we have 3 rules in driver education and that we are updating those. I'll go through those in just a few minutes. You to review and update the operations, guidelines for operations of the program, which are covered also in those rules. Both graduated license, which made a change this past spring. Also the collaboration with DMV, who was also a part of this committee. We have Paul DeLoy and Tanya Faulkner with school bus and traffic safety and driver license respectively. Glad to have you all on this morning. Provide a communication channel with driver education and other stakeholders. Promote public awareness with driver education needs and contributions, and serve as an advocate for the statewide program. So we thank you all again, echoing what Dr. Harvey has told you already this morning. Thank you all for what you do in providing support to the program. Yes, Dr. Harvey.
Thank you. And I think the fact that your work is legislatively mandated. The legislature wants this council to guide the direction of our statewide driver education program, and that each position has been vetted and approved by the State Board of Education. And it gives you a credibility, an acknowledgement of the importance of your work in leading the program.
Thank you, Dr. Harvey. Moving forward, had an opportunity to go to the National or the American Driving Traffic Safety Education Association National Conference in July, and I want to cover with you a few things. And with you, the conference itself this year was overwhelming with some great information, new state leadership coming on board, and the impact of our state nationally. What I'd like to do is, at the very beginning of that conference, there were 9 states that were invited to be part of a state work group, which are helping the Association of National Stakeholders in Traffic Safety Education, or ANSTE, in updating a number of documents and providing them with expertise, local information and guidance on updating these national standards. So this ANSTE is a voluntary stakeholders dedicated to identifying and promoting areas of common ground for improvement of driver education. To me, it's a one-stop shop for information to assist state leadership. So some of the duties and the projects that they're working on is to keep the NTDAs, or the national standards and subsequent standards of living documents, up to date and ongoing through review, revision, and refinement. So their jobs is an active and advisory capacity to the state leaders. Some of the projects they have working on is technical assistance. Approximately 20 states have gone through an assessment. North Carolina was number 10 in that group. We had a group who actually visited North Carolina. They interviewed a number of people in the stakeholders in driver education and was able to create an assessment, which is being used in addition to the study of the Office of State Budget Management that was done in 2010. Together, both of those documents have been our guide to moving the program forward, and as it was stated back then in the legislature, it was a reformation project. We have since moved from a reformation project to being proactive in moving the program forward to what is needed for our community and states. There are communications tools such as strategic plan in that group. As I said before, there's a work group that they are managed by the organization, and one of the things that they have created was the guidelines for teacher preparation, which our state was one of the few states that have moved forward in creating a teacher certification program using the materials that was created by this body. So again, they are a one-stop shop for me as a state leader. You can see their website on the screen there, anstey.info. You don't have this slide, I don't think. Is it, Cindy, the next slide? You do have this slide. These are the members of that body. Highlighting that group is Governor's Highway Safety Association, which our own Dr. Leonard is her agency is part of, and AMVA, the American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators, and also ADED, which is housed actually here in North Carolina. Their international offices. It's the Association of Rehabilitation Specialists, which in our national conference, we had the opportunity to share. There were 15 actual states, and I'm looking at Sherry Vernelson here. She's with Exceptional Children. We had a number of states that presented, and some of the studies and discussions led us around underserved areas or underserved student populations, and obviously students with disabilities or challenges, physical challenges, was at the top of the list. I'm not sure if you know Liz Souls, who is the executive director of them. I have to talk to you about.
Yes.
That is right here in Hickory. They provide us with resources, or provide our local leadership with resources in regards to expert training of students with learning challenges or emotional challenges or physical. Also, next slide, Cindy, the national standards. Did you skip over that? Go back one page. There. It's actually 2 slides. So in 2009, North Carolina had several members that met with a group in Phoenix, Arizona to create national standards for driver education. This was updated in 2017, and just recently, the new national standards for this year were released. North Carolina Department of Public Instruction had 4 staff members that served on these work groups. It took over a year to complete, so there was no other state that had that many contributors to the national standards. So North Carolina was recognized there for their contributions to creating the national standards. Cindy, if you'll go to the next slide, there are 5 sections in the national standards, and you'll recognize those because the first 3 are our subcommittee names. Program Administration, Education Training, which is our curriculum, and instructor training. And obviously we have collaboration with Division Motor Vehicles, and the most critical piece that I feel that's missing right now is parental and guardian involvement, which is something that we are laying the foundation to. I think that that once we get to that point, I think that we'll see a significant impact on, maybe I shouldn't use the word impact when you're talking about crashes and fatalities, but you should see a tremendous decrease in those statistics in that. So I look forward to, as we lay the foundation for the program, I think that we will begin to see that. I know, looking at Daniel Carter, Daniel's got a presentation for us at the end, which will create an open discussion. Next slide, Cindy. The North Carolina leads the way again nationally. We had the most attendees there again, as we normally do. Michigan is not far behind us. This year we are, again, this will be the 3rd president that we've had from North Carolina, Harold Fleming, who is an employee of JDS Driving School, JDS of Carolinas. Yep. Eddie Jordan is a member of our advisory committee. Thank you, Eddie, and thank you for lending Harold to us. Harold's been a great leader nationally, and I know that he does a super job locally as a teacher. I think he was also recognized as a Teacher of the Year recently in Durham County.
Yeah, I think, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've got some great teachers there. Mike Jones on our DPI staff and myself are on the board of directors. Liz Souls, who I just mentioned with ADED, she's located right there in Hickory. And then I'm also a division chair where we hosted 3 sessions regarding preparing for the safe system approach, creating an advisory board, which we were one of 4 states to have one, and the benefits of a state assessment. By the way, I know that I'm speeding through this, but if you have any questions or comments, please notify Cindy and we will recognize you for anything. Regarding the rules or the updates, as we stated, we are in the midst of updating rules. We have completed the teacher certification rules and submitted those to General Counsel. They are waiting for these other 2 rules, which they will move along at the same time. So we are working with our General Counsel here in the building for that. The next 2 rules dealing with contracting will provide support to local boards of education with the guidelines per statute to. Is there a question? Provide support to local boards of education with the guidelines per statute to determine their needs and are the contracts within their outside entities to assist in providing the prescribed services. So we will be following the school nutrition model of a contract template and to approve all the contracts. So we have a precedent here. Thank Dr. Harfield for her leadership again. The rules also define agency responsibility and recertification and a definition of terms. So that's where we are as far as the rules are concerned. The meetings, there will be some subcommittees meetings that are to be announced after this within the next few weeks. We want to try to involve our local leadership in those subcommittee meetings to make sure that we are covering and the amount of things that need to be added to the rules to ensure that we are all moving in the same direction. We also, the situation that we're in is quite frankly, is that our 115 school districts vary in size, demographics, geographics, and so that one size doesn't fit all. So it's very challenging to make sure that you get rules that are stringent enough for standardization, but not too restrictive so that the districts can't operate. So we look forward to the districts district leaders taking part in these discussions. With that, Mr. Chair, I actually have gone past and I've gone into the subcommittee update, which I just did.
You are more than welcome. You're more than welcome to go as far as you want.
I was speeding so fast. Do you have any questions, comments, or I would open it to the floor of any questions from the body?
I just wanted to appreciate or say thank you and everything that everyone has been contributing in that little driver's ed story that someone told earlier. My daughter just finished driver's ed as well. And like I said, the impact of the driver's ed teacher having her while we drive 35 miles an hour and a 55. She'll get up there though, don't worry. She'll learn how to get up to speed. It's pretty impactful. Carl, do you want to kind of go over, is there anything else in the strategic plan revision or student curriculum that we need to go over anymore?
I will defer to the student curriculum with Dr. Royce Davis with that. But as far as the strategic plan, we have submitted that also to General Counsel that will be moving forward to present to the State Board of Education as an update at some time this fall or in the spring. But thanks again for the committee that worked on that updating the strategic plan. Without objection, I can move right into the subcommittee update regarding education and training. Chad, do you know other questions?
I would love that.
All right. I'd like to introduce Dr. Amelia Royce Davis, who is our DPI staff member, who is heading up the leadership of the learning coordination between the education of the student curriculum and also the teacher curriculum. Dr. Royce Davis.
Thank you. So I'll provide updates there. Steps. So the safety and traffic education program for students or STEPS continues to be successful. We've taken great stride to design our program to be flexible in regards to setting, schedule, and pace of learning. The curriculum is housed in a learning management system, which helps us provide students with a seamless learning experience, while also ensuring that instructors can effectively monitor and support their progress. We have recognized the challenges faced by some of our students, so we have addressed the issue of course availability. Our program now offers flexible course options that can be completed entirely virtually. STEPS is adaptable to different learning environments, so whether it's facilitated virtually through live sessions or in a traditional classroom setting, our digital curriculum allows teachers to personalize the content to meet their unique needs of their students. And we've received feedback from that, and they greatly appreciate that. To foster student engagement, we've implemented various interactive elements within our curriculum, so students have access to note-taking guides that they can download and use throughout their lesson. There are guided lessons, 3D animations, discussions, quizzes, and instructor-assigned projects. So these engaging activities promote active participation, critical thinking, and deeper understanding of the subject matter. Excuse me. We did adopt a blended approach, so it combines asynchronous and synchronous components, and students can receive immediate feedback and have opportunities for reteaching. So we're calling it our soft launch phase. We're still in this phase, and we're serving counties in various locations, including the West, East, and Central Piedmont regions. Specifically, we're working with 5 districts, including Catawba, Johnston, Lee, McDowell, and Orange, where approximately 18,000 students have actually completed our program. So this initial implementation has allowed us to gather feedback, and we will continue to make improvements to enhance the program as we are preparing to hopefully launch the program statewide. So that is steps.
Amelia, before you go on to the next slide, the teacher certification, what is some of the feedback that you've been getting from teachers, students, local leaders?
So initially, I think there was some pushback in regards to having the entire curriculum online. COVID really helped because we really didn't have a choice. And I think at that point, instructors found that they were not losing the ability to make the curriculum their own. So they appreciated that. That's the feedback that we received from instructors. As far as students, they really enjoyed the lessons, the note-taking guides. They liked the 3D animations. They liked that it was flexible because some of our students have, responsibilities after school. So they have part-time jobs. They have to go home and take care of their siblings. And so having it virtually or, online allowed them the opportunity to still participate in complete driver education and still fulfill those other obligations.
When you say online, can you define that?
Yes. So our curriculum is housed in a learning management system. And so the content is available online. However, it can be used in any setting, as I mentioned earlier. So we do have some instructors who facilitate entirely virtually, which means that they have live sessions with their students using Zoom or Teams or whatever platform that they choose. And they go through the content independently, and then they have some times where they're actually working with students through the actual content. So online. And then we do have instructors who do more of a hybrid approach. So students may actually complete some activities independently, and then when they meet in person, the instructor has an opportunity to reteach and assess. So it's available online through the platform, but it can be implemented, in any learning environment, whether that be face-to-face or entirely online, virtually. So I know that the terminology can get a little confusing.
The driver ed staff, under Dr. Royce Davis's leadership, had been discussing this. When did we start this? 5 years ago?
Before I came, yes.
Before you came. And that this was a extensive topic nationally among the work group and with the group that I met with on Saturday before the conference started in Wichita, Kansas. And that it's North Carolina was not alone in the situation, obviously, presented to us by COVID, but it did help move things along because obviously teachers were really eager to get back to work and get things moving. Unfortunately, during that time, our program in the classroom part was shut down for at least, was it 5 months, Eddie?
At the month, 5.5 or something.
About 5.5 months. So if you figure 10,000 students a month that were not taking part of the program, we had a significant challenge to get caught up as far as the backlog is concerned. The thing that some of the ideas that have come about regarding this type of instruction is that it can allow some flexibility in how we attack this or present the program, meaning that you said that there was an opportunity for some students to do certain things on their own or in an asynchronous environment, which could, in the long run, if we're looking at increasing the program to somewhat of I hate using a time element, but right now the requirement is 30 hours of classroom. Well, if we're moving toward providing the students with more content, we could actually do this because some of the students could actually do some of this online on their own before coming back to class, which is a little bit of a change in the way that we have done instruction in the past. But there's no guidelines that restrict teachers from having work done outside of the classroom in the state program. Again, this was a tremendous topic nationally. There are many programs that are being created by commercial online producers of materials. We have our own. We've created it using materials that were provided to us by the American Driver and Traffic Safety Education Association. So we have our own unique program here in North Carolina. As we mentioned it before, we're still in a soft launch with this because we're accessing the learning management system where this resides requires funding per student. We're working on some methods to get the program out to the districts without impacting their local budgets. There are a few strategies that we're working on, and we will keep you all abreast of those as we move forward. Yes.
Mr. Logan, I have a question. This is
Sherry Vanell.
Sherry Vernelson. Ms. Royster Davis, do you have any data in your soft launch that you've done with the steps, any data on the number of students with disabilities who have taken the STEPS program and what potentially their outcomes are?
I do not,
Okay.
but that is a great point. And so we'll take a look at the data that we have, and we may have to implement a new assessment.
Okay, and then I'm also thinking about, a couple more questions. So has the STEPS been reviewed within the learning management system for its accessibility, for its general accessibility? And then just sort of thinking about students with disabilities, while, one of the goals is to get students to advocate for their own needs. They often don't or need that encouragement to advocate for their needs. So within that, I'm thinking, is there a mechanism within the STEPS program for students, teachers, or parents to be able to report or, provide some feedback on accessibility and, this particular part was really accessible or I couldn't quite access this very well. So just thinking about those avenues.
Sure. So that's a question or a statement?
Well, first question is, has the steps been reviewed for its general accessibility? And then is there a mechanism where people can report accessibility concerns?
So generally, any concerns related to accessibility would come through an instructor, and they would report to us any concerns about a particular content. One of the issues is that the note-taking guides. So we've gotten a report about that they need to be more accessible. So for example, we have to download them. So the PDFs need to be fillable and need to be able to be read by a screen reader. So there are some reports coming in from instructors, but generally I think they adapt what's in there to make it more accessible for their students depending on their needs. And in regards to if it's been evaluated, we have a basic tool that we use. There's a plugin that we bought that helps us ensure that the text, just basic things like text and font are appropriate. The images have a description. So just basic things, just making sure that to the best of our ability on our end that the content is accessible. So we recognize that's an area for improvement. As far as reporting, again, there's not a tool that we actually use to collect feedback. It's really just anecdotal coming from our instructors.
Gotcha.
And we welcome any guidance in that area that you could offer us.
Yeah, sure. So again, this is Sherry again. So in the agency, we have a partnership between EC or Exceptional Children and Gen Ed called Accessible Educational Materials. And so I know that group, Donna Murray on the general education side, and then Crystal Patrick on the Exceptional Children's side are the co-leaders of that group. That I'm sure would be, willing to help look at some of those things or answer any questions, provide support in terms of, if you have questions about general accessibility. And then also out of my section, we're doing a lot of work around accessibility as well. That if we can offer any support and guidance in that area, we'd be happy to do that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for volunteering that.
In addition to that, your predecessor, Carol Hudgens, provided us with some guidance that regarding IEPs and 504 plans, and that the districts should be working with the driver ed teachers to do such. I don't know if you want to expand on that at all at this time, but we do provide our district leaders with information regarding that they're not obligated to expend more resources on training students than they would any other student. However, it is really up to the district that they can provide more than that. The normal amount per student that the legislature provides us. Also, as far as 504 plans and IEPs, students or districts who contract, we were told that the districts who contract, those teachers, those agencies, those entities are contracted employees of the district and should have access to that student information so that they can be more effective in teaching those students. And I'm assuming that is still the same.
I would believe so. I mean, if that's what Dr. Hudgens said, then yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I say that verbally again, just to remind our districts that, and that's something that we want to provide in our guidance to the district leaders, that they are entitled to that information. Going along with that is additional training, I guess, for contracted teachers. And look at Eddie Jordan here, who is a contractor of several counties, that those teachers should understand that they are responsible for any kind of FERPA. Is that right? HIPAA. Which one is? Health is
FERPA is the educational.
FERPA. FERPA regulations regarding the information regarding teachers or students. Dr. Rosa Davis, as far as teachers accessing or using this platform, can you expand on what kind of training that we do for those districts?
Sure. So we offer a 2-week training that's done virtually to walk them through the essentials of Canvas and how to use the tool. Canvas is our learning management system. Many of them already use it in their local districts. So we just, 2 weeks walk through how to grade, how to create pages, and essentially just facilitate a course either virtually or in a face-to-face format, and how to make the content, again, their own. We do have restrictions on certain pages where they are not allowed to make changes, but again, to make it their own, we facilitate training on things of that nature.
Thank you. Unless someone else has any other questions online, none? Move forward with the teacher certification piece.
All right, so the Safety and Traffic Education Program, or STEP, is our teacher certification program. Since 2019, we've successfully facilitated 11 cohorts, graduating 75 mentors and 281 teachers. So we are proud to announce that 116 individuals have successfully received their 096 add-on from licensure, indicating their mastery of the required competencies. There are about 41 teachers still who have applied for licensure and are waiting for their applications to be processed. In regards to the impact of our programs, we've witnessed remarkable transformation. So the engaging assignments were designed to promote critical thinking and creation of meaningful artifacts. So the instructors go through the course and they actually come out with a notebook and tools and things that help them be more effective in the classroom as well as behind the wheel. This approach encourages students to think independently, analyze information critically, and actively participate in their own learning journey. One of the other impacts we believe has been the use of technology in the classroom. So our instructors have become more comfortable using a wide range of technologies. We have them record videos, we have them use their phone, and they actually, or some other mobile device, and they have to record behind the wheel. They have to use the cloud. So there are various technologies that we use that initially they say is challenging, but then they increasingly become more comfortable with using those technologies in the classroom. Taking a more broad perspective, it is crucial that we address the challenges we face in the coming years. So we have about 65 districts who've reported that approximately 150 teachers are expected to retire in the next 3 years. So we do recognize there is a shortage. That shortage will continue to grow. And so we are opening new cohort opportunities to cultivate multiple on-ramps for a diverse group of professionals. So one thing that we are currently working on is a modified cohort. Right now, the cohorts are held in the fall and the spring. They're about 20 weeks. And we've had teachers request the opportunity to complete this program in the summer. So we are working towards implementing March. It runs through the summer, but it runs March to August. So it gives them a little more flexibility to complete some of the program asynchronously, but then also have that interaction with our instructors and with our division, our section. So we are working to meet that need and offer, again, multiple opportunities for engagement and completion of the program. Any questions regarding STEP?
Could you expand a little bit more regarding the alternative plan that we have for summer cohorts?
Sure. So currently our project plan is, it anticipates the course running from March until August. So it is essentially a 20-week program with 1 week break built in between each course. The courses include orientation and then 2-week orientation, and then there are 4 courses in the learning pathway. And so essentially what we're going to have them do is they have to complete the same requirements, and we expect the same outcomes as we do in our traditional cohorts, but they will need to work a little more independently. As I said, many of the activities will be more asynchronous. We will have study sessions, we will have office hours, but it's a little more flexible in that they can complete 1 course and then maybe come back and complete another course. If they do 2 in the summer, they may can finish up in the fall. So we're just trying to give our instructors more options, because we do recognize that completing the courses back to back to back in the fall or in the spring may be a bit much. Like, for example, we have several coaches. In our mentor pathway, we already have instructors who are currently teaching, who are trying to go through the mentor pathway. So we just recognize that we need to have more flexible options.
Mhm. And this has been asked for by our local leadership to assist them in getting teachers. Thank you for that. I'm trying to think of some other things that that has led us in this direction. Our staff has discussed these using the materials and guidance from the national leadership that I mentioned before, in recognizing the need for teachers. Obviously, the teachers are the bedrock of education, and that we have seen, or I have actually personally witnessed states who have tried to go completely asynchronous, digitized, standalone, whatever you wanted to call it, programs, and they do not allow every student to be able to be successful in it, especially students with some kind of learning disabilities. I hope that I'm saying that correctly. Is that so? This is quite a challenge, and as we continue moving forward, one of the questions I'd like to ask, and this was the question I would ask you, is that, and I ask my staff this all the time. I said, teachers that go through this program are more comfortable with teaching in the new environment of a blended type approach. Would you not say that?
I would say yes. That has been reported in our evaluations.
Okay.
We have many teachers that come in and say that I'm not good with technology. I've never taken an online class, and then they come out on the other side really reporting what a good experience it was. Our staff is very supportive. We are available to them after hours, because you have to realize they teach during the day or work during the day, and then they're completing our program primarily in the evening. Our live sessions are at 6:30, 7 in the evening. Office hours are in the evening. So we try to make sure that we're accommodating to them as well as accessible.
Yeah, I can also attest to that, because I personally in Alamance have had, I think, 8 people go through it. All 8 people were successful. And we ended up hiring, I think, 3 or 4 of them. The other 4 took it to work as driver's ed instructors down the road in the future, possibly post-retirement or post-working, aka during retirement. But they've just really enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed being a mentor. So
Thank you for that.
Eddie, I don't know if you have any comments. I know that you're very interested in getting access to this program for the counties that you provide services for.
No, that's my comment. I'd like accessibility, because we've been hearing about it for a very long time now, and the opportunities have never been presented that we were able to access the program.
There's a possibility that we may be able to extend the accessibility this fall, so that if there are other districts that we have identified, yours 9, is it?
8.
8 would be in that list. Thank you for your eagerness to move forward. And but we will let you all know that as soon as we possibly can. And so I'm working with Dr. Harvey on a strategy. So I hope that this works out for us, and so that we can move this forward in more permanent opportunity to get this out there to everybody. We are sold on it. We've seen it in use. I hate to embarrass him back there, but we got Coach Plisco, who is with Johnson County. I know that his teachers again have made a video showing how happy they were with the program, and thank you all for being the pioneers that you have been, Coach Plisco. So moving forward, if there are no other questions, Chad, how am I doing?
You are doing great. You are just a wealth of knowledge, and you're actually kind of kind of not going too over today. So I'm pretty proud of you.
I'm actually referring to kind of wearing two hats here. Your hands here and eyes while you're remote.
Well, you were making very good time. Let's not mess this up now. Come on now.
All right. I am trying to get to a part of the meeting where I am very looking forward to some open discussion on some things which would require some input from each one of the stakeholders here at the table. So we'll continue moving forward. If you don't mind, regarding the coordination with Division Motor Vehicles, Ms. Faulkner with the driver license office, or Division Motor Vehicles driver license, do you have any comments regarding driver licensing?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Just to update everybody just on some initiatives that DMV is excited about when it comes to customer service and delivering the services to the teen drivers. Many of you may know from media outlets or the news about the demand that we normally have in the summertime, especially with the teen drivers. But we are, being enthusiastic about handling the teen drivers through the graduated licensing program through the peak season, um, which, began earlier this summer, and we just have a couple of more summer Saturdays left, which will be this Saturday and next Saturday. So the peak season will end August 26th. This is when we do see, outside of holidays, most of the teen drivers. And because of the graduated license change, I heard earlier about the pass fail rate from level 1 to level 2. I did make note of that call, but we are actually tracking just road test numbers. We have the ability to abstract the pass and fail rate for subgroups, but right now we're tracking road test numbers, and we're pretty proud of those. We have 16 offices open, fully staffed during um, the peak season. And because of the vacancy rate that I think agencies across the state are seeing for various reasons, whether it's skill set or monies and salaries, we take advantage of the peak season in the DMV driver license office to serve customers because we're able to um, fully implement each terminal station to get the greatest impact of the number of customers we see at those 16 offices across the state. So we're able to put all hands on decks in those offices. So I just wanted to speak about that because that we were challenged with the number of teen drivers we were going to see, close to 75 to 80,000 because of that change. But we are getting them through, and we're happy to report that. As well as just a couple of other things that um, we would like for you to know just far as our services is being offered. We have extended our operations um, to 7 a.m. to over 40 driver license offices operating from 7 to 5. We also have utilized the walk-in services after lunchtime, giving the people opportunity for the appointments in the morning and walk in the afternoon, utilizing the walk-in wait time technology on the DMV website to pinpoint which offices um, have the highest demand, so you can determine which offices you want to go to and where. Um, we also have utilized the QR code technology and the short code, which is text messaging, basically, um, posters at the offices, if they are posted and if per request, when you see a long line. We are still putting out media about that. Um, a lot of customers is just used to having the appointments or being able to walk in for the 8 hours. And because now we're adjusting to have appointments and have walk-ins and introducing the QR code and the text messaging, it is sort of like slowly changing customer behavior, but and they don't necessarily want to utilize it, but we are helping with that demand by giving more technology, especially for the teen drivers. I'm interested to see if we could get down in the data to see um, if these technologies are working and who are using them, to be able to place them in areas that would impact customer service the most. Um, that being said, we did um, add online renewal for Aspire credentials for the full provisional license. So if you had that level 3 and you turn 18 and you want to go to a level C, a regular C license, you have the opportunity to get that regular C online, um, which will help also. They came into effect in May. So those are just the highlights that I know we are excited about, customer service wise and customer demand wise. And we're interested, and of course, in a more tailored coordination with you all when needed. I do have people that reach out to the regional chiefs with questions regarding DMV rules and regulations, and we're always open to get those phone calls and emails to help out whenever we can. So that being said, that's what I have to offer you today. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to share with you.
And thank you, Tanya. If you don't mind, what about have you noticed any trends of recent regarding students who are coming into the license office with any particular, well, let's just start off with any physical or challenges dealing with the testing parts? What are the services that DMV provides regarding testing?
We do. I haven't seen an uptick or of students needing those services. However, that is a good thing to be to think about in regards to data when teen drivers do come in the office. But currently, we do have ASL and language interpreters. So, and we do use those to assess what a teen may need regarding their special needs or even what they request. I heard someone say earlier, which is so true, sometimes teen drivers may come in and parents are multitasking, and we work with the teens to process their application up to a point where we need a supervised driver or a parent, and they may not say, do you have an option to where I can get a special appointment to have a language interpreter, or a appointment where I can have an ASL. But those are options that we do offer in the driver license office.
Pardon my ignorance, but can you define ASL?
American Sign Language.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We interpreter
I hope
services.
there's one other
call
person
them.
other than myself that know ASL.
Yes, we have American Sign Language interpreters, and we offer language interpreters. And when I say language interpreters, of course, that's barriers with English language not being their first language. And then again, we offer um, oral exams where we can work one-on-one with a teen that comes in if they request that, with a parent, and sort of give us a background on what needs are there. Those are special appointments. Of course, they take longer time. A senior examiner in those offices can offer the availability for that, but it would have to be initiated with a senior examiner to do so.
So they can do that in every office,
Yes,
and they need to communicate with the office prior to that.
well, you can communicate that prior to that, if of course you want the convenience of setting it up and figuring out which office can offer time that's convenient with you in a location. Each offers it. It's just finding a time on the schedule to allow that, usually up to 2 hour time allowment. So most people initiate it in the office to have some coordination, because that is not offered online for you to place when you're doing your online appointments.
Can you think of anything else that the driver license teachers in the classroom could help prepare the students for regarding this transition?
Um, I would say, I know people learn differently. Um, and of course the teachers in the classroom, it's best to assess their students, but when they come into the driver license office, it is very important for them to say exactly what they need are. So say for instance, they're going to have an eye test um, and a vision test where they have the options of numbers or letters. They have a road sign test where they of course got a ID road signs, but there are different ways that we can administer that. They can put their head in the machine and utilize the machine, or we can actually put it on the screen and they can see it, standing further away. I'm taking note. These are some great tools that DMV could improve on letting the public know that we have. And so I'm glad you asked that. But they don't know that, and we need to do a better job of giving them their options. But they coming in confident that a driver license examiner is there to help them, and they do have options, and for the parent and or the student to ask for those if needed.
I think that DPI can also assist you with, if you can point us in the right direction, I can get with you on this. If you can point us in the right direction, we can link our website to such to provide students with that type of information. So if we can get it, I guess, concisely written on a page or so, then we can point them to that.
Okay.
Thank you tremendously for the support that you all have been providing us. And I look forward to continue working with you. Are you still, the driver license office, is it 2 zones? Is it still east and west?
Yes, so I am the regional chief examiner for the western areas, and Jerron Grice is the regional chief examiner for the eastern. So it's right down the middle. The west starts pretty much Lexington, Winston-Salem, all the way to Andrews, North Carolina, past Asheville. In the east, of course, the opposite.
Thank you for this information. And I don't know if Paul Deloy is he on, Cindy? Paul's not. Okay, with School Bus and Traffic Safety. All right. Thank you so much again, Tanya. I look forward to working with you all, obviously, in continuing our partnership there in getting students from the classroom to the highway.
You're welcome.
Chad Aharon.
Yes, sir.
I'm still rolling.
We're still rolling. I just wanted to say, because I was topic, and you tell me, squirrels stay in your lane, but the DMV was amazing last Monday when my daughter went to get her permit, and she was in and out within an hour. The only problem is now she passed and she wants to drive, and then eventually I have to pay for car insurance, and I'm pretty cheap, so we'll see what happens. But thank you for the DMV for what you all do. Appreciate you. All right, are we so subcommittee updates? Where else are we on, Carl? Where do you want to head with this?
We're moving right along. We can actually the instructor qualifications piece has already been submitted to General Counsel, and like I said, it was waiting on the other 2 rules. So we look forward to continue to getting that done, and then moving that into the to the process of getting them to the State Board of Education, and then on to the Rules Review Commission. So we can move on to old business. So while I'm still driving, the strategic plan is, like I said, is in the strategic plan is in the General Counsel's office, waiting for the other rules and to appear to, because they actually somewhat are interlinked or intertwined with each other. So it would be good for them to go through those at the same time. As far as the student curriculum, Dr. Royce Davis just mentioned to you that we are seeking alternative methods of getting the our program out to the districts as soon as we possibly can. We see the value in providing this standardized education to our districts. Some of the questions that I mentioned to you before at the very beginning of my update that started, seemed like yesterday, there are some questions that are going to come up after this next, I'm going to remind you of those after this next presenter. We are actually well underway to updating the State Highway Strategic Plan. DPI has a role in that as far as the education is concerned. There are 4 E's: engineering, enforcement, emergency services, and education. The program actually is mentioned in, I think it's 11 strategies.
This past one, I don't remember how many emphasis areas, but it sounds about right.
So we're mentioned in almost all of them. And I have discussed this at length with Dr. Leonard many times, and I felt like that we should put this on the agenda. And just a quick reminder, the General Statute 115C-215, Driver Education Program, shall be for the purpose of making available public education to all students on driver education and training. There's 5 items that I mentioned before. We need to, the strategic plan was to create goal performance indicators, collect data on program participants, and compare it to all other eligible students, collect rate of students receiving licenses, and the role of an advisory committee. But I felt like we as educators do that. That is our lane. We are educators. We are not the people with the facts, the statistics. On our advisory committee is Daniel Carter with the North Carolina Department of Transportation. If you will introduce yourself and talk to us a little bit about statistics and how you see the DPI State Driver Education Program, how does it fit into the strategy of the State Highway Strategic Plan?
Sure. Yeah. So, good morning. And yes, I work with the traffic safety unit of DOT, and I do a lot of data. We track crashes, of course. It's one of our biggest, pools of data. I do a lot of work also with other data that we link to that, particularly roadway for the DOT. We do infrastructure, but we do also pull into that, person level information, driver information, that sort of thing. So Carl asked me to kind of just give you kind of a sense of where things are in terms of trends, crashes, and that sort of thing, and I'll kind of give a wide view of the state and then focus in on, of course, teen drivers. It's what we're doing here. So I've got a presentation because what I'm trying to communicate is really best done visually. Me describing graphs is pretty fruitless. So just really big scale here. Obviously, we're a growing state. That's just a graph of population, just to say, we just keep going up, right? We've got more people coming in. We are one of the states that's growing. Next slide. I think this is pretty interesting. Just a quick look at kind of how is the state growing or changing. We are urbanizing. I think you've probably heard that in an anecdotal sense, but here's the data. The more blue counties are where population is increasing. The more orange is where it's decreasing, and you can tell the trend here. You see the urban areas is where people are going, and particularly out east is where it's emptying out. And so we are an urbanizing state, and I think that could have some ramifications when we talk about education, teen drivers, anything like that. Next slide. This is a metric that we track. So not just how many people do we have, but how much are they driving? Because that's really what we're getting at, is how many vehicle miles are driven in the state every year. So this is one of the things we track as a way of putting things in context when we talk about numbers of crashes. So the total amount of the bar is just how many vehicle miles were traveled in the state every year. It's 2002 to 2022 there. But also you can see the split. The upper portion of each bar is the urban vehicle miles traveled, and you can tell that becomes a growing piece of the picture. So just again, we are an urbanizing state. We have more urban miles being driven. That's not to say that there's a decreased priority on rural areas, but this is just a context to know kind of what things look like nowadays. Next slide. Okay, so let's look at crashes. That was kind of the context of kind of what forms the people and the miles being driven. But let's look at the crashes. So this is a graph of simply how many crashes, total statewide crashes, have occurred every year from 2002 up to 2022. And we're talking about crashes on public roads. We do not include in this scope parking lot crashes or maybe a private driveway, private roads. We're talking about public roads, so just to kind of put this in context. And so we have been seeing an increase in the latter portion of this. You can see a very noticeable dip, of course, in 2020. We did see a dip in the total number of crashes that were occurring. That did bounce back, unfortunately. We're back to that. So keep that in mind there, but let's go on to the next one. In terms of our priorities, I say our NCDOT, the traffic safety unit, we do look at all the crashes that are occurring, but our priority is on those that result in someone being killed or seriously injured. That's our priority, and that's also reflected in the federal. If you look at the Federal Highway Administration, they have the same priorities. Every state's doing this. And so we do track things like the fatalities and the serious injuries. The lower line is the fatalities, and we've been seeing a slow increase, especially lately in the past few years. And if you'll notice, there is not a drop in 2020, and that is an interesting and a little mystifying thing that we did see in that 2020 time period. Our total crashes took a steep drop because a lot of people stopped driving for a while. The fatalities did nothing. In fact, they went up about 11%. Not good, and it kept going, as you can tell from that graph, from 1675 up to 1801. We are seeing that taper off a little bit, but that's something to take away. The upper portion of the graph I know looks weird, and that's because the serious injury, which is what the police officer or trooper reporting the crash says is the most serious injury in the crash, based on visual, looking and seeing what the injuries appear to be. That there was a definition change, so the graph looks weird. It's on there, but I kind of wanted to more call out that fatality trend. I want to give you a sense of when we talk about these fatality and serious crashes, let's just say serious crashes. What is kind of the big bins? What are the big categories? And I think it's pretty obvious if you look at these pie charts here. Lane departure, huge. People running off the road. A lot of single vehicle crashes, certainly. People running off the road into trees, maybe into the opposing lane of traffic. That's a huge piece. It's a huge problem. Frontal impact is the next one you see on there. A lot of these are going to be intersection related crashes. You have people doing an angle, what we call an angle crash, which would be 90 degrees, or a T-bone, if you want to say it like that. Or a left turn taken into a gap that wasn't sufficient and colliding with someone. That's another big piece of this. So I just kind of wanted to give you a sense. I'm not going to really get into a lot of these small details, but just a sense of kind of what does it look like when we look at crashes overall. Next slide. This one, I'm going to call out one piece of it and not get into all of it, but this is where we're looking at where we're at so far in 2023. And this is as of a month and a half ago or so, compared to where we were at this time on the 5-year average. What's up, what's down? So for example, some of the sort of more extreme things you can see there is the bicyclist fatalities are up quite a bit this year compared to where they have been over a 5-year period. We're not going to get into that one, but I wanted to at least point out that the teen driver crashes are up slightly compared to the 5-year average. So we are seeing a slight increase in those teen driver crashes. Okay, so speaking of teen driver crashes, I want to bring to you the data I pulled together. Carl asked me to do this this past week, so I pulled together the numbers and kind of what they're looking like right now. So this is a graph of all crashes in the state that involved a teen driver. We're not talking about fault, just involved a teen driver. Either the teen driver was the at-fault party or was struck by someone. So this is the context here. You'll notice that it is a similar shape, at least in the latter portion, to what we saw from the total statewide crashes. There was a drop in that 2020 time period that came back up. So very much paralleling what we saw from the overall statewide crash picture. And in a general sense, across the board, maybe going down slightly, but somewhat flat-ish if you look at the kind of overall trend. Next slide. But let's delve not just from the high level all crashes, but to the fatalities that are related to these teen driver crashes. And so I've done this in two ways. The upper line is fatalities that resulted from a crash that involved a teen driver. A teen driver was in the crash, same as I defined last time. The lower line are teen drivers themselves who were killed, either in a single car crash or in a crash that involved another vehicle. These are, and this is, you know, I've got 2 teen drivers. That lower line is what gets to me. You know, these are parents who have the worst call. You know, you can imagine there. So this is obviously this is what we're taking on here, right? This is our mission here to decrease these. Unfortunately, in the past few years, you can see that lower line's been going up, and in fact, in 2020 went up. So we've got a problem that's not going away. It is increasing. We need to keep our eye on how can we address this in the most effective fashion. Let's look at new ways. Let's look at old ways. Let's look at everything that we can do to address this. So I know there was a lot of lines, a lot of graphs, and a lot of numbers. I hope that it was informational. Maybe some of it you anticipated. Maybe some of it was a little different. The last piece I wanted to bring here, I think maybe there's 2 here, refers back to what Carl has introduced. There was a strategic highway safety plan. We have to have that as a state. We're mandated to have that. We do it about every 5 years. So the last one we did was in 2019. And I thought this was a very interesting piece that they put together, looking at what they call your younger driver involved fatalities, but teen driver fatalities is what we're talking about here. And they related that to what kinds of crashes are occurring, or when these teen driver fatalities happen, what else is going on in that crash picture? And so they related to what they call here emphasis areas, as you mentioned, around 11 or so emphasis areas that we have in the state, things like lane departure or speeding or distracted driving. And so kind of from left to right here, they're emphasizing what other factors were at play in these teen driver crashes. Big one there, lane departure, which is the same as we saw for everybody, basically. The teens are having the same issue that everybody is having. Running off the road, leaving the lane, huge issue here. So keep that in mind when we talk about educationally, what can we do? You know, how should training try to tackle that one? So then moving on to other things that were related, unbelted. This one always shocks me. Unbelted is still a huge piece of fatalities, not just teens. It's a huge piece of all the fatalities on North Carolina roads. I think it's somewhere around 40 on average involve unbelted drivers or some lack of protection that they should have. A few other things on the left side there, we can see speeding and intersections. I would maybe call out those four: lane departure, unbelted, speeding, and intersections as those kind of dominant characteristics of the teen driver fatalities. So think about that as we talk about educational things, curriculum things. Let's keep this in mind. The last one I put up there, I didn't know if this would be interesting to people. It was part of what was in that strategic highway safety plan. So I thought, well, I'll clip it out and bring it here. Basically looking at counties that sort of have higher representation of teen driver related crashes. It's a lot of the urban areas, probably not terribly surprising, but I have that. If you are related to a particular county, you might look to see kind of, how does that show up here, but I want to bring it to you as well. So that's what I've got from the number side, and I'm happy to answer questions or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we have enough time to answer all my questions. Is anybody online that have any questions?
Do you not have any concern?
I'm very interested in what is it that we need to focus on, and it seems like if we are an urbanizing state, it does seem like that there are two distinct areas where there are. I'm assuming that off-road recovery would be a rural.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I would say that's where you're going to see more of that lane departure crash is going to be those 2-lane rural roads with the pine trees on either side. That's I would say the classic situation there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the other one, of course, is intersections. We talk about urbanization.
Right.
The urban areas are where we have a higher density of intersections, and so teens having better skills and knowledge and experience and cautiousness at intersections, I think, is going to be a big piece of that.
Intersection training. There used to be a statistic some years ago that where these, I'm just going to generalize it, 95% of crashes are driver error. Would you think is there any studies or any indications that the driver error is because of attentiveness or skill?
Yeah, that's a tough one to unlock. It's been tough for us. We look from the outside, we get the data from the crash
Right
after it's happened. Seeing inside the cab has been difficult, and to know kind of what feeds into that. But certainly you do see a lot, like speaking of like lane departure crashes. I get an email with descriptions of crashes every week, and you see a lot of person ran off the road to the right, overcorrected, ran off to the left, hit a tree. And so that's a skill. That's a skill-based thing. There may have been some attentiveness that led to them running off the road. So it's a both and answer here. Both of those come into play.
I guess I could direct this to Chad and Eddie, who are dealing with teachers in the classroom and in the behind the wheel environment. Is this an area that we could provide additional training for teachers to not allow these or to discuss these, because you can't practice off-road recovery?
Right. One thing I got from this excellent information, Daniel, and one of the things I take is talking about the state urbanizing. As driver educators, we notice that because in our training, all students, we train them all the same, but it is a different group when you're training in urban versus in rural counties. And those statistics kind of tie into what we've learned. So I think that would be an area. We teach rural driving, we teach city driving, but it is, as driver educators, we have to grow with the way the state's trends are growing. And it is an issue, the urban driver education, because it's a lot different teaching in Raleigh now than it was 20 years ago. It's just in Charlotte, same thing. So it ties really well with what we're teaching.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even if you're here in Alamance, if you go from Southern to like Williams, which is, Graham, Snow Camp to Burlington, it's kind of night and day for some of these kids who are more used to the country roads.
Dr. Harvey has a question.
Just a question for you about the data. Can you distinguish in the overcorrecting environment Is inclement weather a variable that's considered as you look at that correction?
I didn't break it out that way, but it certainly could be one of the ways that I can break down, take those lane departure crashes and say, which ones were related to snow, ice, wet, anything like that versus kind of clear conditions. I certainly could. And I mean, that's a good point. If I know we don't have a lot of time to keep going today on this, but if there's any desire for me to delve into any particular aspect of that, if it's, weather or something like that, let me know. Let Carl know. You can let me know for the next meeting. I can bring that. I'm happy to do that. So that's kind of what we're here for.
It's purely an observation. As we see more development in urban communities, we see more communities that are not equipped to handle massive amounts of water. So there's a lot of standing water. There's a lot of flash flooding. I don't know that that's an environment we necessarily have the opportunity to prepare students for simulation. It'd be interesting to see how much of that could be a factor, or the weather conditions could be a factor in what's happening, and how we might in the future begin to address that through simulations or other experiences.
Yeah, I think there's some basic messages. Slow down and pay attention that can address pretty much all of these things, right? Whether it's standing water or running off the road or not seeing a vehicle at an intersection, slow down and pay attention works very well for all that. Does it drive home? Does it affect behavior? I don't know. I don't do that. That's what y'all do.
Thanks. Very interesting data.
So to continue the discussion, do you think there should be a proficiency of certain skills when students finish the driver education program?
I'm gonna have to take my DOT hat off for that when you're just gonna get more personal opinion on that one. That's not my area of expertise nor what I focus on here. Yeah, I mean, I think certainly from what I know, and I was in research, Bevan Curley, new member, was my colleague for a number of years.
Yes.
And I know that being told something has maybe some small effect, but being shown something or learning something while doing has a much larger effect. So my take would be, yeah, the skill proficiency should be a big piece of that. I know there's legislative mandates about what you have to include, and there's limits on time, but certainly,
I
Go
have a
ahead.
quick question.
Yes.
So I'm thinking about, and that, this is Sherry Vernelson, in that regard, and when my girls were teens, and I was seeing a lot of advertisements about these schools where you can go and learn how to, defensive driver. And so are those, we didn't do it, but are those good? Do they show? Because it seems like those are opportunities to do some of those types of drivings, but I don't know if they have what the research shows on those, if they have any impact on driver skill and ability.
my former colleagues at the Highway Safety Research Center did a study on that particularly to see if there was, I think, one particular driving school. I think they worked actually out of Alamance County to do this study. And I mean, the takeaway was no, not that beneficial, and in fact, a little detrimental. The reasons would be things like overconfidence. Because you've trained on this, you could take the speeds a little faster. And we see the same effect when we do some, when I say we, sort of transportation profession engineering overall, when you get into things like delineating a curve with better reflectors or something like that, it increases driver speed because now they can see the curve better. It's not what we wanted, but sometimes you find that sort of counter effect when you do things that are supposed to be helpful and you kind of turn out to have a bit of a adverse.
Thank you.
Well, I certainly look forward to continuing our conversations, and that as I'm looking at this from the most optimistic way I can of getting our digitized program out to the districts, we have the ability to make changes or point teachers in the direction of answering or modifying their local programs based on trends, fatality trends, or crash trends in their particular area, directly through our learning coordinating section with DPI. So I look forward to that partnership continuing, and I look forward to continuing to work with you all at there. I can't remember if this is your first term, or I think this is your first term.
Still in my first year here.
Yeah, so I've known you as long, so I look forward to that. So we got possibly, well, you're in a situation where it's indefinite, as long as the agency wants to keep you there.
That's true.
Yeah, so great opportunity. Thanks to Carol Hudgens for making that suggestion. So yes, Chad, I'm going to recognize Coach Plisco from Johnson County in the back without objection.
Absolutely, go ahead.
Mr. Carter, thanks for that. Would you be able to share that with Carl or somebody? Would you just be able to share that PowerPoint with Carl or something together for the weeks? A lot of us have our meeting of your meetings with our staff, and we're always looking for stuff to create additional assignments or something new. So this could be just a good resource for them to take and fill in some gaps, and let our teacher be able to adopt it. Needs that we're seeing right here in some trends. They do have some flex time, especially when the room's in full. So that would be helpful.
Yeah, actually, Cindy's already got it, so if you wouldn't mind kind of and like that, it'd be great.
And it can be used correct, like
Sure.
publicly.
Oh, yeah.
So the DPI staff is ahead of you. That PowerPoint is already available to you. Right, Cindy? Do we have any other questions, comments regarding price statistics? As I stated, I just can't say this enough. The partnership that we have with your agency is just priceless. We are the educators. We don't know what we should be teaching. Thank you for pointing us that direction and offering that, that we can get that out to the districts. As Amelia told you, we have a little over 1,200 teachers. I will say that in 1900, seems like so many times so long ago, in 1975, there were 2,400 driver ed teachers with less than probably a quarter of the kids, or less than half at least. Today, we have 150,000 kids with 1,200 teachers. As you can see, it's a tremendous need for us to train teachers. And how do we keep them up to date with such a fast changing environment that we are charged with? So, are there any other questions online or anyone? Not? So Chad, as we continue moving here, our next meeting is on November 21st from 10 to 12, same room here, the State Board of Education room. The information will be sent out to the local leaders on the website as well as this body. Anything that we see that we might need to have on the agenda at that time, we hope that we'll be able to provide at least a recommendation of the new rules or the rule changes or updates for the existing rules, so we can move those on to General Counsel. With that, Chad, I'll hand it back over to you.
Well, first off, thank you everyone for participating, and committee members, advisors, and staff, for everything that's been discussed and so forth. Ever since I've been doing this the last year and a half or so, we've made strides of improvements. And obviously to show that I'm not biased, where my county is in Alamance County, we don't use the online program that Carl's talking about that we want to get in everyone's hands. But my daughter, who goes to Orange County schools, did use that program and thoroughly enjoyed it, and only got 2 questions wrong on her DMV test. So I will say it's something hopefully that we do get to invest in for the students here in North Carolina. I remind committee members that our next monthly meeting, like Carl said, will be held in this room on November 21st, 2023. I hear it's a beautiful room. From 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. We have now completed our meeting, and unless there is additional business at the time, I ask for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn. Eddie Jordan.
Eddie Jordan, motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second? It's good.
Kevin Harrison. All right. Thank you, Chair Al-Haroon. And
Thank you. Thank you for, it's 11:46. This is a pleasant surprise.
all right, thank you.
I guess you may be able to present it at the state conference for us.
We were invited.